Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're joining us today. This webcast is going to be a bit different from past ones where we usually highlight features and techniques inside of Plant 3D and P&ID. We do plenty of those with tips and tricks and show you how to work with things like the data manager and such. Today, we're going to look at a companion utility that comes installed with Plant 3D, and that is the report creator. Some of you might not have been aware of this tool, or maybe you are aware of it and you've tried to use it and found out that it doesn't help with getting the information that you want from your projects. You might think it's too cumbersome. It is a different animal from what we're used to when we're working with our CAD tools. It is going to, once we're done here and I show you a few things to clear the fog, you'll be able to share with people outside the software like project managers, estimators, purchasers, vendors, even your customers. Those of you who have tried to work with the report creator probably found that it is a little difficult to work with, possibly. Maybe you're getting data from it and have been asking yourselves, how in the world do I get this to give me what I want? There are a couple of documents from Autodesk that cover the report creator, but they aren't really written for the lay user. And in our Plant and P&ID training curriculum, we've been introducing the report creator. However, because those classes aren't focused on it, it's focused on the main product, there is not enough time to fit any more than a high-level overview of the report creator. So this webcast is going to focus on that, and we'll be pulling information from a plant project and show you what's possible. I'm going to begin by reviewing a few of the reports that come with the report creator and why you might not be using it. And then I'm going to show you some customized reports that I've put together. I have had some customers reach out and hired us to create some for their specific need, because this is a tool that they don't use often enough to make it worthwhile. After working with them, though, it got me thinking of different types of reports, which led me to create the ones I'm going to share with you today. Hopefully that will make you want to start using it. And in the interest of time today, I won't be able to cover every inner working of the report creator, but you'll get to see what you can do with it. And if you want to get more involved, we can help you with that. And because of the interest we've had lately, we are in the process of opening a new training class that will be focused on the report creator. And it's going to, in that class, we are going to go under the hood, show you how each of the reports that you'll see today were put together. So you can hire us to do custom work like this. And as soon as you can take the new class, you'll be able to learn how to do them yourselves. So I had a customer ask me recently, isn't this what the data manager is for? Well, yes, it is. The data manager is for entering your data when we're in Plant 3D, and you can export it to a spreadsheet, as you might already know. However, that is just raw data with zero formatting or logical layout other than being able to put the columns in the order that we might want. And the data manager in itself does not perform any calculations. So we're forced to export and then set everything up in the spreadsheet, do your formulas and things like that, which takes extra time. The report creator is the tool for generating a parts list, a bill of materials, specification sheets, using the data from your plant project, what you see in the data manager. And you can use the tool simply to run pre-configured reports in a very simple two-step process. With the report creator, you would set all that up front, press the proverbial easy button, and out comes your data, plus it's laid out the way that you want to see it. And that includes things like calculations. And you can still export to a variety of formats and print them for sharing or part of your deliverable. I mentioned there are some out-of-box reports. The ones that come with the software might be enough to get you started. However, they might not be exactly what you need. We're going to look at a few of those, and then I'll show you the ones that I've come up with. When you need to create a custom report, you can create from an existing one. You can change the data that you're pulling from the project, how it's laid out, what it looks like, and you can even apply filters to get a more refined result to look exactly how you need. You can also create reports from scratch. Let's look at some of the pre-configured reports. So to do that, when you look on your desktop, you won't see a shortcut for the report creator. You might just have a shortcut for Plant 3D. So what I do when I'm ready to run the report creator is I just go to my Windows Start button, and I'll use the search bar and just start typing the word report and let Windows find it for me. And there's the shortcut for it in the Windows Start menu, the report creator for AutoCAD Plant 3D, and then whatever release you might be using. And since 2027 has been released, that's what I'm going to work with today. And here's the report creator. Go ahead and escape out of the PowerPoint for the time being. Here's the utility. It is a separate utility. You do not have to have Plant 3D running in order to work with the report creator. However, usually we would have both, so we can go between the two. First thing you'll do is you'll load your project. And you do that just by opening the project XML file. That will load up all your drawings in the data source window here. So you can connect with the entire project, or if you want to go to specific drawings, you can access drawing data. So for example, if all I wanted to do was pull from the P&IDs, I could do that. But for today, I'm going to stick with all the project data. And then I'll go to the report configuration and look at the list of out-of-box reports. So anyone who's ever looked at the report creator before, you pull this list down. This is the list that you would have seen. And I'll start with this equipment list right here. Let's look at that one first. And I'm just going to click the preview button. And that's the out-of-box equipment list. It is pulling P&ID data. Not too bad. It is showing some information, which means properties have been filled out in the data manager. There's no formatting whatsoever. So it doesn't look beautiful or anything like that, but you may not care about that, and that's fine. But notice the weight column. The weight column has no data in it, which leads me to believe that those properties were never filled in Plant 3D. So what I'll do is close that preview. I'll leave the report creator open though, and I'll just switch to Plant 3D since I already have that open, and go to the P&ID side of the database. And down here in the data manager, I'll just go to the equipment level. And sure enough, the weights are already entered. So the problem is with that particular out-of-box report. The properties have been filled in. And as you saw a minute ago when we previewed it, the weights are blank. Okay, well, that could make someone decide, well, I'm just gonna cast it aside. The report creator's no good, right? Um, you might be thinking that, and that's understandable, right? So we'd have to do something about that to make so we can see the weights there. In the example I'll show you in a few minutes, you'll see that it's working. So that's one thing, a limitation of this first report already that might get in our way. Let's look at the valve list. Again, nothing's been done with the formatting. All Autodesk has done is they created the reports, nothing more. Maybe they added their logo, and that's pretty much it. But the formatting leaves something to be desired, right? Same layout, very plain, but we might be getting the data that we want, and if that's all that we're after, great. It just doesn't look very official. So if you wanted to share one of these out-of-box reports with your external partners like vendors and so on, or even another department in your company, someone just might not like it or something. But at least it's functioning, so that's good. Another one that might get used is the instrument list. If we're looking at a valve list, we might also want something like an instrument list, or maybe it's a combined report. So here's the instrument list. Notice here all the fields are filled in, but there is still some missing information. So that tells me that there are some components that aren't tagged in this project. So maybe I'd like to filter those out. Or I'd have to go fill the tag in or do something there. Again, this would not be an easy button situation the way I'm looking at it. Then there's a few more reports that do some calculation, and those are the weight reports. And there's 3 of them here. Here's the weight report by line number. It's a little more robust than those first ones. These reports are grouped by line number, and it is computing the weight of each of the components. And if we scroll down far enough and look where the groups separate, there is a total weight for each of the lines. That might come in handy, but there's still something to be desired with this formatting. There's a lot of white space, and the weights, the decimals are all over the place. So if you were to run this same report from your report creator, you'll see exactly what I'm showing you. And again, something to be desired with the decimals, as well as all this extra space in between all the line items and things like that. And so this one, even if you don't have a lot of lines in your report, I have 33 pages here, which seems excessive, simply because the formatting wasn't completely dealt with. Another weight report is one by objects. So this one doesn't have any grouping. However, things are still somewhat grouped so that like items are next to one another in the report. So that's good. Other than that, it's the same report as the line number weight report. And then there's another one, weight report by spool. But there's no spool numbers, which from P&IDs, is that even an issue? Maybe not. In the model, it could be. So, but the report itself has already been set up in case someone needs it. So there's some weight reports. There's also some center of gravity reports, which are very similar to the weight reports. We'll just look at one of these. Pretty much identical to the other report, still has the weight column, and then it has the center of gravity information from the data manager. Still might be enough to get you started. The 3D reports, we'll look at the 3D parts report here. Of all the reports that come out of the box, this is probably the one with the best format and the layout. Easier to read than the others. It is also grouped by component type, so all your pipe is in a group, elbows, etc. It has size down the middle there. It is calculating the total length of each pipe size, and it's totaling the quantities of the inline components. So this can be a good bill of materials for your 3D models. Still, the format needs some attention, just for the sake of readability. Maybe there's a column here that you don't want, and there's another column that you do, but it's not here, things like that. All of the lengths and the quantities, maybe you want to justify them differently just to make it easier to read. I also want to call attention to something in this report in particular. Let's look at the, zoom in here for you, the bolt sets. I have found that in the bolt set, the quantities that you see here are the number of sets. And based on what I've told from some other customers, what they really want is the actual number of bolts for the project or for each type of bolt. So we don't have that in the out-of-box report, which means someone's going to want to export to Excel and then run the math from there. When I show you my custom report, I've included that to get the actual bolt count. So what we'll do in the next report is we're going to watch this one right here. I just decided to use this one as my example today. It's the 3/4 by 4 1/4 bolt, and we'll watch what the quantity is when I show you my custom report. So once that's built in, no one has to do any math. And the last out-of-box report I'd like to review is the drawing list. Not everybody cares about having a list of all the drawings. Others might. So this is the out-of-box drawing list. You all have access to it if you've got Plant 3D installed. The drawings are listed, but there's no filtering, and there are gaps in the information. For example, look at the revision column here. This revision on the drawing list simply doesn't work. No matter what you might try, you'll never get the revision column to fill in with your revisions. And that's an issue. In the report I'll show you, there is a way to take care of that. Another thing that is lacking in the drawing list report is some drawings don't have anything in the number column. I also don't have anything in the author or the drawn by column. Those are the isometrics that are in the project. And in case you weren't aware, there is no place on an ISO to add that information under drawing properties, like you can for P&IDs, orthos, and 3D models. So that definitely leaves something to be desired on a report like this. Also, we've got that path column, and if you're sharing your drawing list externally, we really don't need to share a path like that with someone outside the company. So I did find a way to address all of that in my custom report. So with all these reports, yes, there are some that might get us all started, but there is some refining to be done. So what I'd like to do next, before I show you some of the finished reports that I've done, let's look at creating a new report from an existing report. Maybe one of the out-of-box is meeting your needs, and you just want to spin off one and make a few light tweaks to it. Okay. So I'm going to use the equipment list that's out of the box as my example. So from the report creation configuration list, I'm going to go to new, from existing report, and then I'll choose the equipment list. So that's going to duplicate it and then allow me to save off as a new one. And I'm going to call this one my equipment list. And then I'm just going to click OK to get it started, and we'll do a preview. And just taking a quick look, what I'll do here is maybe what I want to do is I don't care for the Autodesk logo. Maybe I just want to take it out. So we'll close the preview, and I'll go to Edit, and then I'm going to go to Edit Report Layout. That is going to open the report in the Report Designer. And we could proceed to change what fields are here and clean it up, rearrange, you name it. So first thing I'll do is this title here, that's just a text box. So I'm just going to double click that and do something like that. There's the logo. I'm just going to delete it. And since I'm working in the report designer now, which is part of the report creator, I can switch between preview and the design mode from here. So up here in the corner, at any time, I can just preview, look at the changes I just made, and then switch back to the designer and continue working. So I'm okay with what I did up here at the top. And looking at the data now, notice that the tag column, it appears to be cutting off those values there. Same with the manufacturer. We also have some really long-winded headers here, like material of construction. Maybe you want to just reduce that down to the word material. And center the column headings. So I'll switch back to the designer. And I'll start with the material column, and I'm just going to edit it like that. Centering, as you would expect, just like you would if you were in Excel. If I want to center those column headings, I'm going to use my Control key and just select those. And then from the ribbon, center them. So a lot of things in the report creator work just like they do if you're in Excel or Word or similar tools. So I need to make some room for the tag and the manufacturer. This column here is really big, so I'll just select those and shrink them. Things like that. And this will also allow for some consistency in your reports. And I'm not doing anything brand new here. I'm doing exactly what I do if I'm working in Excel. Maybe I don't need the tag column to be that big, so let's make it more like that. And preview it. Now I can see all the data. Nothing's being cut off. And this is without having to know very much about the report creator. And if the data is there and everybody's happy with it, then great, this is ready to deliver. I'm not going to worry yet about the weight column not working on this one. We'll just pretend that it is. I already mentioned that the out of box, the weight column doesn't work the way it's set up. So from this preview, I'm still in the report designer. You can export from here. So here's your export button. And these are all the different formats that you can export to. PDF is the default. However, you can still export to Excel from the report creator, which will include all of the formatting that you might do. I won't worry about exporting today. I'll just go ahead and close the report designer and save my report. Now when I preview it, same thing. And in the preview window, you can still export from there. The button's just compressed up in the toolbar here. And there's all the different file formats. So that is one way to start a new report, is to create from an existing report. Next, I'd like to create a report from scratch and show you what that looks like. So back in the report creator, this time I'm going to go to new and do new blank report. So doing this way, I can change in or out the columns that are fed into it. So this one I'm going to call the company equipment list. I'll stick with the equipment for now. And since this is going to be from scratch, the first thing you'll need to do is edit the query. And then we'll choose what data points that we want to bring into the report. So your query type, you can pull from your P&ID database, your drawings, or your plant database. I'm going to stick with P&ID for now. For your available classes, what is it that you want in the report? I'll just select the equipment and bring that to the included classes. And that's all that this report is going to look at from the data manager. I'm also going to add a little bit of sorting here. So I'm going to come down to the field area and look for the tag field. Come over to the sort order. Double click right there and apply sorting. So things will be sorted based off their tag. And while you're setting up your query, you can test your result right here just to make sure that it is pulling the data that you're after. And if I scroll to the right enough, just looking at the tag column, which is right here, and they're sorted alphabetically. And that takes care of the query. So if you wanted, you can see all the classes on the left here. If you wanted, a report of just your tanks, you could get more specific than what I'm doing here. I'm sticking with all equipment. And this is how the out-of-box reports have been set up. After you set up the query, then you'll edit the report layout. And since this is a blank report, the report wizard launches. And then you can start selecting which data fields you want in the report. So like the other equipment list, the description, the manufacturer, model number, and supplier are very common. I'll go ahead and add the weight, and I'll add the tag fields. And I'm also going to do one additional thing here. I'm going to add the class name and then use that to group the equipment. So we just select our data fields and then advance the wizard. And for grouping, I'll just use the class name to separate the tanks from the pumps and things like that. And then I'll go next. And because I added a field that is a value, which is the weight, that's the only field that I can apply a sum to here. So I'll select the weight field. And for the summary function, here are your options, which is a lot like that auto sum button in Excel. So I'll just select sum right here. Move to the next screen and set up my paper. Pretty straightforward. It's a lot like other applications. I see the same thing in the page setup area of Excel, of Word, etc. So I'll just put my margins in that I want to use. Portrait or landscape. Next. And then choose a color scheme. Now this helps if you want to apply some extra branding to your report, like the company colors. Hagerman's colors are kind of in the blue arena. So I'm just going to choose blue for my color scheme. You don't have to choose a color scheme. You can do a custom one. I'm just picking the closest one here. And on the last screen, what do we want to see in that title box across the top of the report, which will be equipment list, just like before. And then finish. Once the wizard is done, the report designer will open. And what I do after this is I like to go ahead and preview it right away to see what I'm working with. So there you go. Doing a blank report, we can get something started here, and we've got calculations in place. So that means no more math. And we also have a grand total down at the bottom here of all the equipment. Not bad. The only drawback right now is the order of the columns. So when you're thinking of doing a report of your own, there is no way to set the order manually. So for example, if I wanted the tag column to be first, that is done in the report designer. So in the interest of time, this is all the formatting that I'll do today. It'll really drag out the webinar if I go any deeper on this one. I'm going to show you one of the custom examples where that is dealt with, so you can at least see that it is possible. So we would just rework the locations of the columns. It only takes a minute or two. And then you can go from there. But at minimum, at least now we have a report. It's got the data that you want, and we really didn't have to fight with one of the out-of-box reports to get it. And our math is in place. What I will do here is add a couple of items up in the header, like the project name, the project number, and a company logo. So I'll switch back to the designer. And we'll do some work on the report header area. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click inside that report header and expand it. And I'm going to add a couple of labels. So I'm just going to do two fields here. I'll do project name and the project number. I'll come over to my toolbar here And I'm just going to drag and drop a label. And then I'll drag another one and snap it right below it like that. These are just text boxes. And in the first one, that'll be for the project name. Second one will be for the project number. That. I'll stretch these how I want, just doing a lot of the basic things I would do if I was in Word or Excel. Nothing new here. And I would do that for however many text boxes or labels that I need. You can copy and paste these and rework them as well. To bring in new fields, I'm going to open up the field list. And a lot of times when you're working in the report designer here, those aren't visible on screen. So we have to open that window. You'll find that under the View tab. And then the Windows button over here. And there's the field list. The field list is every property for equipment, because that's what we're querying right now, that is in the Plant 3D database or the P&ID database, either one. That includes any custom properties that you may have added to project setup. So there could be a lot there. And when I'm looking for particular properties like project name and number, what I like to do in the field list is use the search box at the top here. And I'll start typing the word project. And that will filter that list and make it easier for me to get to the field that I want. And there's project name right there, and there's project number. So just like I did with the labels, you can drag and drop fields onto the canvas here. And I'll do that for both of those and just snap them right into place like that. At any time, if you want to see what it's going to look like, you can switch to your preview. Looks like I need to give a little more room to get the name to be on one line. Okay, back to the designer. And I'll just stretch these boxes here and preview it again. That's something I could work with there. The only other thing I might do is make sure that the fonts match the rest of the report. So I'll just grab those boxes there. And on the Home tab, that's where all the font tools are, just like Microsoft. And I'll just change the font to match the rest. And then maybe center them vertically there like that. Okay, last thing I'll do here is let's add a company logo to it. Make it look more like it has a letterhead. So I'll come over to my toolbars on the left here, and I'm going to drop a picture box in. We'll just snap it into the corner here. And now I've got some control boxes here that have turned red, and that just means that they're overlapping. So once you separate those, then that releases that that warning there. You can continue working. It doesn't hurt anything. It just means that you've got fields or labels, those control boxes that we're working with, they're just running into each other. That's all that means. Now we just need to inject an image into that picture box. So I'm going to select that box right there, click the settings, and then add an image source. And that's it. And then I will resize the area. I'm just doing that again just by picking in the white space for the header here. put that where I want it. One more preview. And there's an example of a report from scratch. And I love having the math in place. So if we need to do any totaling of anything, anytime we can build that into a report configuration, that saves time exporting from the data manager and setting it up in Excel, which is something that could happen repeatedly. So I'm going to consider myself happy with this layout. So I'll close the report designer and click yes to save the report. And now I've got a custom report for an equipment list. And once I get to that point, I will locate that file, which is stored in the program data folder on your computer. It is a good idea whenever you're doing custom reports is separate your custom ones from the out of box, put them in a different folder, maybe on your server. For now, I won't worry about it because it was based off of the out of box. Okay, so that's an example of creating from an existing report, and another example creating one from scratch. Next, let's have a look at some custom configurations that I've done so you can see what's possible. I did focus on the same reports, you know, the valve list, equipment list, etc., and dressed them up. And here are the ones that we're going to look at next. They're just going to be my versions, or the first iteration anyway. And there's one additional one that we didn't look at. I did a 3D steel report. There isn't an out-of-box report for structural steel that you might be adding for doing your mezzanines and things like that. So I've come up with an example for that. To get to my reports, I did put those in a separate folder. So I need to switch. So I'm not looking at this list anymore. And to do that, I'm going to go to the settings. And by default, the report creator is set to the general option, which is under the install point of the software, or under program data anyway. So I'm going to switch to my custom path here. And that's going to refresh my list. And now I can show you my custom ones. Starting with the equipment list and preview. And here's what it looks like. So just dressed up the formatting, made sure everything is easy to read. I've got a couple extra columns or properties at the top of the report. And you see now that the weight is accounted for. I also added the total weight for all the equipment as part of my report header, just to make it easy to find. A lot of times a grand total is at the bottom of a report. Sorry about that. I clicked off screen here. A lot of times it's at the bottom of the report, or if there's a lot of pages and you're looking for a grand total. I don't really care to have to go to the last page of a report to see the total. I'd rather it be at the top of the report. Just for anything we can do to make things like this more convenient. So that's the equipment list. Here's the valve list that I did. A little bit different than before, or compared to the out of box. It's got the same valves on it though. The weights are working. I did add an additional weight column so we could show the individual weight of a valve. And then for those that have multiple quantities, then I'm tallying the weight as well. I also decided to use a different description on this one. what you're seeing here is actually the spec part property that's in the data manager. Even if you're not doing a spec-driven project with your P&IDs, you can still leverage the spec part property in a report. So I decided to use that one instead of the regular description, which is used in all the out-of-box reports. The instrument list, I decided to break that up into two. So I made an inline instrument list and a general instrument list just to do something different. Here's the inline instrument list. There's not much on this one. However, they are consolidated. So like items, the quantities are counted up. And looking at my second one here, the pressure relief valve, there's 3 of those in this project, according to the report, but there's no weight. Okay, well, I just proved that I've got the weight working. I just need to go to the project and add the weight for that. And sometimes when I'm looking at my reports, this is when I catch things that I haven't filled out in the data manager yet, is in the report. Sometimes you don't see it right away when you're looking at the data manager, but here I always seem to see it because I'm not looking at all the data all at the same time. So I'm going to close the preview here and switch to plant. Go down to the data manager, down to the instruments, to the inline instruments, and there's the relief valves right there. So I'll just go all the way to that level. Sure enough, I have not done the weights yet, so I'll just fill in a weight here. I'll just pretend that they're 100 pounds each. I do have to save these drawings in the data manager in order for them to get picked up in the report creator. So make sure you save whatever drawing contains those components. It's a good idea to just have your P&IDs open, choose each one, make sure they're saved. Otherwise, you'll go back to the report creator and it'll look like nothing's changed. But once they're saved, you can just go back into the report creator, hit preview, and those fields will be filled in. So now I've got the weight that I filled in, and I've got the tally of those weights. Now, in addition to that, on this one, make sure we're looking at the right one here. Let's go back there and bring up my markup. There we go. In addition, for this top one here, this is actually a control valve. So I configured this report to indicate when there's a control valve, indicate the actuator that it has, as well as the body that you have assigned to that control valve. So this one just has white space down there, so there's room for it, but if it doesn't have it, then it's not going to show you something that's incorrect. So just as a little extra there, an idea, if you want to show what actuators and bodies are part of a control valve, you can do it. Here's the general instrument list I put together. So you're starting to see some consistency in the formats. I just decided to separate the different types of instruments. I didn't do a weight column on this one also. I could have, just decided not to, but it would only take a minute or two to include that. I did keep the quantity just so you can see that it is calculating when there are repeat items in your project. All right, so that was the instruments and the valve list. Let's look at the 3D bill of materials next. This one is very, in fact, this is the first one that I customized. This was derived from the out-of-box 3D parts report. So I cleaned it up. It's grouped by component type. So your pipe is together, your elbows are together, etc. I separated the size column and cleaned it up. I like to use the inch symbol instead of any other way to indicate inches, things like that. I took care of the precision on the quantities or the lengths and the weights. And by doing that, it's rounding up to the nearest pound now. Now, remember, before I mentioned hold on to one of the bolts for the bolt set. So let's look at that one. So I said, let's keep in mind the 3/4 by 4 1/4. I think the number of bolt sets on the original report was 27 sets, but here's your total count. So there's proof that we can get an accurate bolt count for each bolt in the project if you need it. And then, of course, if you are adding weight, then it tallies the weights as well. So that just feels like something that could be very useful. You know, for example, if I was a purchasing person and someone sent me a report and there's only 5 bolt sets, for example, I'm going to be thinking, well, how many bolts is that actually? And so I have to go back to the engineer, the designer, to find that out. Now they don't have to run that down, do they? So just something to think about. And off of that one, I did do a few additional bill of materials from the 3D models. So I grouped one by spec, which looks like this. This is the same exact report. It's only grouped by spec, and each spec and its components will be on a page by themselves. So I'm separating it based on that as well. Other than that, it's the same report. And there's a lot of white space, and that's simply because not every manufacturer, model number, etc., has not been entered in the data manager. But you can see here that if I did that, that it is working on the components that I did do it to. So I'm not going to waste your time by filling in anything else in the data manager today. Then I've got one more, which is by line number. Since there was an example of that out of the box, I decided to apply that to the 3D bill of materials. And here it is grouped by line number. So you can do your weight totals again if per line if you need it. Things like that. Other than that, these are all the same reports. That way the data is accurate across all the reports, and the formatting is consistent. And then here's the 3D steel report we put together. So if you need one for structural steel that contains the weights, the lengths, even your column IDs and things like that, this is an example how that could be done. And just like I did for the equipment, I added the total weight of all the steel to the report header just to make it easy to find. And then there's the drawing list, or my version of it anyway. This is how I made it look. As you can see, all the fields are accounted for on this one. I also grouped the ISOs separate from the orthos and the P&IDs, and you'll notice that the models are filtered out. So I just did this one just as an example. to show a list of drawings that you might provide. And sometimes we don't provide the models themselves, but we give them the drawings, the 2D drawings. So you can show a list with all of them, or you can filter out certain drawings that you may not need. And I also made sure that the isometrics are, it's obvious which drawing is which now, which in the original report, if you didn't know any better, someone may not know which ones are the ISOs and which ones are the P&IDs and things like that, if they don't know your numbering standard. So the drawn bys are all filled in, the revisions are accounted for, and things like that. So the short answer to can you provide that information in a report for isometrics, the short answer is yes. We just have to use a different technique than we do with the P&IDs and the orthos to make it work. But it is possible. Okay, that is the last report, a custom one that I wanted to share with you today. A quick word about some of the limitations that you might run into. The out-of-box reports, as you saw, they do lack format and they don't fully work. Still might be enough to get you started though. Another limitation is when you're running the report wizard and selecting the data fields that you want, you cannot reorder those fields during the wizard. We have to do that after the report is up and running and we're in the report designer. Autodesk is aware of that. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Another limitation is there is a type of list known as a dynamic list, and I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. Those don't work when you're previewing a report. What happens is whenever there's a list where you can choose. So for example, the line number bill of materials that I showed you, what if you want a report, but you want to choose which line numbers are in the report versus all of them? That list gets disconnected, which meaning it's not going to work unless you do it the way I'm going to show you here. So I've got an example of that here. I've got another report called the 3D bill of materials number 2. So this one, I've got it set up so it would prompt you, and then you can choose which line numbers you want to be part of the report. The problem is when you hit preview, it does bring up a prompt, which is very convenient. But when you try to choose line numbers, the list is broken. So that's no good. What you have to do is this. You have to go ahead and play it through and then close the preview because there's nothing there. What you have to do is you have to go to edit and then edit the report layout. And what needs to be done is we need to reconnect that line number list to the report. So what happens is when you save and get out of the report designer, that link gets dropped. And Autodesk is aware of that. I opened the case. They had me put it on the ideas board for Plant 3D. So it is in the pipeline somewhere. We're running 2027 today, and it's not there yet. So you know how it is with new features or improvements. We don't know when they're going to fix that. So, but here's the workaround. You'll edit the report layout. You'll open your field list. So again, I'll have to go to my View tab, and then Windows, and then Field List. And I'm just going to collapse the data. What I'm after is under the parameters. So these are ones that we can fill in during our report creation. And in my reports, if I were to create a report for your company, it'll have a line number parameter to get it ready. So this could be used. Whether you use it or not, it's still going to be provided. But what we have to do is you have to find your parameter where that list is prompting you. And we just have to edit it, go to the data source, and reconnect it to the database like that. And then from here, just go to preview. And now we have a parameter over on the left, which is that list from before, but now it works. Now I can choose specific line numbers. When I click submit, it builds the report, but it's only those line numbers now. So it's the same line number report with the option to select line numbers versus all of them. And that could be done for any other property. I just chose to do it for line number because there's the one out-of-box report that does the same thing. But there is that one little gotcha, if you will. So now that it's going to be in this webcast part of the recording, then there's a way for people to make this work if they need to. Even if I save it and then go back to the main dialog and try to hit preview, the same list comes up as a prompt, but you can see that it drops it again. And that's what Autodesk, they put that in the development pipeline. So if you are using that sort of a technique, at least now, you'll have a way to work around that until Autodesk gets that fixed. Okay, so that's it for the limitations that you might run into. I hope what I've shown you today is going to help you. Remember, we are here to assist you in the event that you need to provide reports like these from your Plant 3D projects. You can hire us to show you how to set them up, or we can create them for you if you don't have time yourself. And this is just one of the custom services that Hagerman provides. We can also provide content creation for Plant 3D and the other Autodesk products, Lisp programming, and so on. We have people that are very good at custom Lisp programming. Just simply contact your sales rep, or you can visit our website for more information. Also, keep in mind that we are getting ready to launch a new class for the report creator, so stay tuned for that. And with that, I'll take the next few minutes to answer any questions. I just need a moment to find the question panel. And looks like there is one question there, and that question is, any way you can report fittings length from Plant 3D? Yes, you can. If it is a property in the data manager, then we can include that in a report. Okay, so there's a second question so far. Can the data be reversed? Additional data added into a report sent back to the drawing? No, it is one way. So the report creator does not, it's not bi-directional between the report creator and the data manager. So whenever something needs to be, if that's what you're thinking, you would have to go into your project and fill in those properties in your drawings. So something that's not a property in the data manager, that will be hard for me to answer. like this, but that is something we might need to scope out to find out exactly what you need, since we can do formulas and logic and things like that in the report creator. It's possible we could take different information and stitch it together. I've done that before. That way it shows the way you want it to. But usually for something like that, if there's not a property for something in the project, my gut tells me to create a custom property. That way it exists, and then we'll be able to get that into the report. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, feel free to just contact your sales rep or reach out, and we'll see what we can do for you. Okay, so I'll give a few more moments if any other questions come in. There's a couple of questions regarding showing feet and inches in the report. Yes, that is possible. The out-of-box report shows that on the 3D parts report, as well as the custom one that I did. Feet and inches are they are shown in that format for things like pipe length. So short answer is yes, that is possible. Next question, will there be a link for this recording? Yes, there will. Since you all registered for today, you will see an email from our home office soon. It may not be today, could be tomorrow, but in the coming days, our marketing team always gets these recordings on our website, and then you will receive an email with the link. But they will also be available on our website from here on out after we get the recordings taken care of, and they'll be under the resources tab on our website. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in at this point, so I'll go ahead and end it here. Again, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.